Overview of the divorce process for plaintiffs. Getting a divorce is a process with many steps and can take several months. Michigan Legal Help can help you at every step along the way. Here is a bird's-eye view of the whole process. When you file for divorce, you are the plaintiff and your spouse is the defendant. First, prepare the forms to start your divorce case. You can get them by completing the Do-It-Yourself Divorce on the Michigan Legal Help website. When you finish, you will get several forms that you'll need at different times. Follow the checklists to see what you need at each step. After you print and sign your forms, file them at the courthouse. There is a filing fee, but you can file a request for a fee waiver if you think you can't afford it. The judge will review your request and decide if you qualify for the waiver. Your divorce starts when you file your papers, but you are not finished yet. Before you can get to the end of your divorce, you have to complete several steps. As you move along in your case, there are several issues that must be resolved by you and your spouse or decided by the judge. These issues include how to divide the property you and your spouse have, how to divide your debt, and if there will be spousal support. If you and your spouse have children, the issues of custody, parenting time, and child support must also be decided. If you and your spouse have minor children together, it will be at least 6 months before you can get divorced. If you do not have minor children, it will be at least 60 days before you can get divorced. The timeline starts when you file your complaint. You must have your spouse served with copies of the papers you filed. To learn about service, watch the video, How to Serve Divorce or Custody Papers. Your spouse will have a chance to file an answer. Your spouse has 21 or 28 days to do this, depending on if your spouse received your divorce papers in person or by mail. If your spouse does not file an answer by this deadline, you can ask for a default. A default lets you finish the case without input from your spouse. Later, your spouse can ask the judge to set aside the default and let him or her participate. It will be up to the judge to decide whether to allow this. If you have minor children, you and your spouse may be required to meet with someone from the friend of the court to see if you can agree on things like custody and parenting time. The friend of the court helps the judge make decisions on these issues. They may also calculate child support for you. There are 3 different ways you can get a judgment to finish your divorce: after your spouse is defaulted, after you and your spouse agree on all the issues in your divorce, or after a trial. Whichever one happens, you will have to prepare a final judgment. You can do this using the Do-It-Yourself Divorce or the Do-It-Yourself Judgment of Divorce on Michigan Legal Help. If your spouse has been defaulted, your next step is to file a motion to enter your judgment and schedule a hearing for after the waiting period ends. You will go to the hearing, give brief testimony, and the judge will sign the judgment you prepared. If your spouse has not been defaulted, your next step will be a pretrial hearing or settlement conference. You and your spouse will meet with a judge, referee, or other court staff person to talk about whether you agree on all the issues in your divorce. If you do, you and your spouse can sign the judgment of divorce you prepared. You will give brief testimony and the judge will sign your judgment. If you and your spouse do not agree on all issues by the pretrial hearing, the judge may order you to go to mediation to try to reach agreement. If you can't agree at mediation, you will need to return to court for a trial, where the judge will decide the issues you and your spouse can't agree on. The trial may be formal or informal, depending on the judge and whether your spouse has a lawyer. No matter how you get to the end, after the judge signs your judgment of divorce, you must file it and give your spouse a copy. Once it is filed, your divorce is official. You may have to take extra steps to divide property and debt after your divorce is final. You can find out more about this on the Michigan Legal Help website. For detailed step-by-step instructions on the divorce process and to prepare the forms you need to start your case, go to the divorce toolkit that is right for you.